Let me tell you something strange that happened on a flight to Europe. Two passengers boarded the same aircraft, same airline, same route, same departure time. They sat in the same row, in business class. Both had the exact same seat, the same lie-flat bed, the same three-course meal, the same champagne service. When the plane landed, they arrived at the same airport at the same time. But one detail was very different. Passenger number one paid $8,000 for that seat. Passenger number two paid $1,200. Same seat, $6,800 difference. So the obvious question is, how is that possible? Did the second passenger find the mistake? Did they get lucky? Not exactly. They simply understood something most travelers never learn. Airline ticket prices, especially for business class, aren't based on fairness. They're based on a pricing system designed to extract the highest possible amount from each passenger. Airlines use complex revenue management software that constantly adjusts prices depending on who they believe is buying the ticket. Corporate travelers, vacation travelers, last-minute travelers, each group gets treated very differently. After reviewing more than 300 business class bookings and speaking with former airline pricing managers, one pattern became clear. The people who understand how this system works can save thousands of dollars on a single flight. And today, I'm going to walk you through 6 strategies airlines never advertise that make this possible. One of them alone has saved travelers more money than all the others combined. But before we get into that, there's something most passengers don't realize. Airlines are perfectly comfortable with you paying full price because most travelers never learn these rules, and that's exactly why they keep making billions. So if you enjoy learning the travel tricks airlines never explain to passengers, subscribe now, because this channel is essentially a free masterclass in flying smarter. Now let's start with the first rule the airlines quietly rely on. To understand why two people can pay wildly different prices for the exact same seat, you have to understand how airlines actually price tickets. Most travelers assume there's a fixed price for a flight. There isn't. Airline tickets are controlled by dynamic pricing systems, software that constantly adjusts fares based on data. Not once a day, not once an hour, sometimes every few minutes. These systems monitor several signals at the same time. First, booking patterns. They track how quickly seats are selling and who is buying them. Second, demand levels. If a route suddenly becomes popular because of a holiday, conference, or seasonal travel, prices rise automatically. Third, corporate travel habits. Airlines know when corporate travelers typically book flights and which routes they use most. And fourth, route popularity. Some routes attract a high number of corporate passengers, which changes how seats are priced from the very beginning. When you look closely at how these systems work, something important becomes clear. The pricing model is built primarily around business travelers, not regular passengers. Business travelers behave very predictably. They book flights far in advance because their companies plan travel early. They often fly Monday mornings, heading to meetings at the start of the work week. They prefer non-stop flights because time matters more than convenience. And most importantly, they usually aren't paying for the ticket themselves. That means price sensitivity is extremely low. Airlines know this, so the system is designed to charge the highest possible fares during the times and conditions when corporate travelers are most likely to book. But here's where things get interesting. If you're a leisure traveler, someone with flexibility, you can take advantage of that system. Because once you understand who the pricing model is targeting, you can position yourself in a completely different category. And when you do that, the price of the exact same seat can drop dramatically. So let's start with the first rule airlines quietly rely on, and why booking too early can actually cost you thousands. Strategy number 6, timing your purchase. Here's the first rule that surprises most travelers. Booking your flight as early as possible does not always save money, especially when it comes to business class. In fact, booking too early can be one of the most expensive mistakes you can make. Many people believe airlines reward passengers who plan far ahead. That idea comes from the early days of aviation, when seats were sold using fairly simple pricing models. Today, the system works very differently. Airlines now rely on pricing software that predicts who is most likely buying a ticket at a specific time. And the earliest buyers tend to fall into one category: corporate travelers. Companies often schedule travel nearly a year in advance. Conferences, client meetings, and international business trips are placed on calendars long before departure. Airlines know this pattern extremely well. When flights first become available, usually 10 to 12 months before departure, business class seats are often priced at their highest level. Not because demand is high yet, but because the system expects corporate buyers who are less sensitive to price. Here's a real example. A traveler planning a trip from the United States to Tokyo booked business class almost a year in advance. The ticket cost $7,500. Everything seemed locked in. Seat confirmed, trip scheduled. But 2 months before departure, something interesting happened. The exact same seat on the same flight was now selling for $2,100. That's a difference of $5,400 for no change in service, aircraft, or route. So what happened? Airlines run constant evaluations of their premium cabins as a departure date approaches. Roughly 2 to 4 months before a flight, the system checks a critical question. How many business class seats are still empty? If the cabin isn't filling up the way the airline expected, prices begin to adjust. At that point, airlines start targeting a different type of passenger, leisure travelers who are much more sensitive to price. Lower fares appear because empty premium seats generate zero revenue, and airlines prefer to sell them at a discount rather than fly with them unoccupied. Timing also affects the day you choose to travel. Some flights attract far more corporate traffic than others. For example, Monday morning flights are often the most expensive of the entire week. That's when business travelers are heading to meetings or starting business trips. Prices also rise Thursday evenings and Friday evenings when professionals are returning home before the weekend. But there are days that corporate travelers usually avoid. Flights on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday tend to have fewer corporate passengers competing for those premium seats. That simple shift in timing can change the price dramatically, sometimes by hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So here's a practical approach that many experienced travelers follow. Start tracking flights about 6 months before departure so you can observe how prices move. Then aim to purchase your ticket roughly 2 to 4 months before a flight when airlines begin adjusting unsold premium inventory. And whenever possible, schedule flights outside the corporate travel window. Avoid Monday mornings and late week evening departures. Position yourself in the category airlines treat differently, the flexible traveler. Because once you understand how the system identifies passengers, you can choose to appear in the group that gets the better price. Quick question for you. Have you ever checked the price of a flight later and realized it suddenly dropped hundreds of dollars after you already bought it? If that's happened to you, comment yes. Those sudden drops are exactly what we're talking about here, and once you know how to spot them, the pricing system starts to make a lot more sense.
Strategy number 5. Using Google Flights like an expert. Most travelers search for flights the same way. They open a travel website, type in one destination, choose their dates, and scroll through whatever results appear. That approach works, but it rarely finds the best deals, because the most powerful flight search tool available today is Google Flights, and most people barely scratch the surface of what it can actually do. Google Flights is fast, clean, and incredibly good at revealing patterns in airline pricing. But to benefit from it, you have to search differently. The first feature that changes everything is multi-city comparison. Instead of searching for just one destination, you search several at the same time. Let's say you're flying from New York to Europe. Most travelers type New York to London and stop there. But if you search New York to London, Paris, and Rome simultaneously, something interesting happens. You suddenly see how dramatically prices can vary between cities on the same continent. London might cost $4,000 in business class that week. Paris might be $2,900. Rome might drop to $2,300. Same region of the world, same week of travel, huge price difference. That simple comparison can change where you land in Europe and save thousands. The next tool many travelers overlook is the Explore map. Instead of choosing a destination, you let the map show you prices across the globe. Within seconds, you can see business class fares to dozens of cities at once. This is especially useful if your goal is simply to take a trip, not necessarily to a single specific place. One traveler used this feature while searching for a winter escape. He originally planned a trip to Miami. Then he opened the Explore map. Business class to Bangkok appeared for $1,800. His original plan would have cost nearly twice that amount. Sometimes the best deals appear in places you weren't even considering. Another powerful feature is the date grid. Instead of checking one date at a time, Google Flights shows prices across an entire calendar window. And that's where pricing patterns start to reveal themselves. Leaving one day earlier or returning one day later can shift the price by hundreds of dollars. Finally, there's price tracking. With one click, Google monitors your route and sends an alert if fares change. That means you don't have to check constantly. The system watches for you. A simple action plan here.
Search multiple destinations, not just one, turn on price alerts so you catch drops quickly, compare dates across the calendar grid before booking. These small adjustments give you a much clearer view of how airlines are pricing seats. And once you start seeing those patterns, something interesting happens. You realize pricing isn't random at all. But the next strategy takes this even further, because sometimes the fastest route is also the most expensive one. Strategy number 3, why one layover can cut your price in half. Here's something airlines understand very well about human behavior. Most travelers hate layovers. The moment people see a connection on a flight search page, they often skip it immediately and scroll straight to the nonstop option. Airlines know this, and because they know it, they price nonstop flights at a premium, especially in business class. Think about the type of passenger who values a nonstop flight the most. Corporate travelers. They're usually flying on tight schedules, heading to meetings or conferences, and time matters more than money. If a company is paying for the ticket, saving 2 or 3 hours becomes far more important than the price difference. Airlines take advantage of that behavior, which means the fastest flight is often the most expensive one. Here's a real example. A couple looking at business class tickets from Chicago to London checked the nonstop option first. The price for 2 seats was just over $11,000. Then they tried something most travelers overlook. They added a single connection in New York. The price dropped to $5,400. Same final destination, same airline, same business class cabin across the Atlantic. The only difference was one stop along the way. That simple change saved them $5,600. And here's something interesting that many travelers discover once they try this. Layovers in business class are not the stressful airport experiences people imagine. Instead of waiting at crowded gates, business class passengers have access to airport lounges designed for comfort. Inside those lounges, you'll usually find fresh meals, drinks, comfortable seating, reliable Wi-Fi, and quiet spaces away from the main terminal. Many international lounges also offer showers, so you can refresh between flights. Some even include resting rooms where travelers can take a short nap before the next leg of their trip. Certain airports have built a reputation for exceptional lounge experiences. Places like Dubai, Singapore, and Istanbul operate some of the most impressive business class lounges in the world. In those airports, a layover can actually feel less like waiting and more like a break in the journey. So when you search for flights, try a small adjustment. Compare the price of the nonstop route with the one-stop option. Look at the airport where the connection happens and check the lounge facilities available there. Sometimes adding a stop changes the entire price structure of the trip. And when you combine that with comfortable lounges, the extra time becomes much easier to justify. By the way, if this is the kind of travel knowledge you wish someone had shared with you years ago, take a second and hit the like button. It helps more travelers find this information so fewer people end up paying thousands more than they need to for the exact same seat. Strategy number 3, book economy, upgrade later. Here's a tactic that surprises a lot of travelers the first time they see it happen. Sometimes the cheapest way to fly business class is to not book business class at all. Instead, you book a regular economy ticket first and upgrade later. At first glance, that sounds risky, but from the airline's perspective, it actually makes perfect sense. Airlines would rather sell a business class seat at a discount than allow it to fly across the ocean empty. Once the departure date gets closer, the airline begins looking at the premium cabin and asking a simple question: how many of these seats are still unsold? If there are several empty seats, the airline may start offering upgrades to passengers who already have tickets. One common way this happens is during online check-in. You open your reservation, expecting to simply confirm your seat, and suddenly an upgrade offer appears. For example, a traveler flying from New York to Dubai bought an economy ticket for $900. When she checked in online, the airline offered a business class upgrade for $450. Her total cost became $1,350. That exact business class seat had originally been listed for $5,500. Same seat, same service, a fraction of the price. Another method airlines use is bid for upgrade programs. After purchasing your ticket, some airlines send an email inviting you to submit a bid for available business class seats. You choose how much you're willing to pay. If your offer is competitive and seats remain open, the upgrade gets approved. A practical rule many experienced travelers follow is to bid about 20 to 40% of the price difference between economy and business class. So if economy costs $1,000 and business class is $5,000, the gap is $4,000. A reasonable bid might fall somewhere between $800 and $1,600. But there's one detail that matters here. Never book basic economy if your goal is upgrading. Those ultra-cheap fares usually come with restrictions that make upgrades impossible. Instead, choose regular economy or premium economy, both of which allow upgrade offers. And here's a simple trick that frequent travelers use before their flight. Check the business class seat map a few days before departure. If you see a lot of empty seats in the premium cabin, that's a strong sign the airline may offer upgrades at attractive prices. And when that happens, a regular economy ticket can suddenly turn into a lie-flat seat for far less than most passengers ever pay.
Strategy number 2. Hidden airline deals most travelers never see. Here's something most travelers assume that isn't entirely accurate. Many people believe flight comparison websites show every available deal. They don't. Those sites are useful, but they only display a portion of what airlines are actually selling. Airlines often release certain offers directly to their own audiences first, not to search engines. These deals are commonly sent to 3 groups. First, people on the airline's email list. Second, members of the airline's loyalty program. And third, followers on their social media accounts. Airlines do this for a simple reason. When they have unsold seats in premium cabins, they sometimes prefer offering limited promotions directly to engage customers rather than publicly lowering the price everywhere. Here's a real example. A traveler subscribed to an airline's newsletter received an email advertising 60% off business class tickets to Europe. The offer lasted just 48 hours. Anyone who wasn't on that mailing list never saw it. There's another category of deals that spreads even faster. They're called mistake fares. Occasionally, an airline's pricing system lists a premium seat at the wrong price, sometimes business class for close to the cost of economy. When that happens, travel deal websites and airline followers often spot it within minutes. And once word spreads, the seats disappear quickly, sometimes within an hour, which is why experienced travelers follow a simple rule. If you see a great deal and you're unsure about it, book it first. Most airlines allow 24 hours of free cancellation when tickets are purchased directly from the airline. That means you can secure the deal immediately and decide later whether the trip works for you. So the practical approach here is simple. Join the frequent flyer programs of airlines you're interested in. Subscribe to their email newsletter so promotions land in your inbox. And follow travel deal accounts that track discounted flights and mistake fares. Because the biggest travel discounts often go to the people who hear about them first, and most travelers miss them simply because they find out too late. If you want to stay ahead of those opportunities and learn the strategies airlines rarely explain, consider subscribing now, because the next method we're about to cover is the one that quietly saves experienced travelers the most money of all. Strategy number 1. Mix business and economy strategically. Here's the strategy experienced travelers quietly use more than any other. You don't need to fly business class for the entire journey. You only need it where it actually matters. Long flights. Most of the comfort benefits of business class, lie-flat beds, extra space, better meals, and real sleep make the biggest difference on flights that last 5 hours or more. On short flights, those advantages shrink dramatically. So a practical rule many seasoned travelers follow is simple. Flights longer than 5 hours, business class makes sense. Flights shorter than 3 hours, economy is usually perfectly fine. Let's look at a typical trip from the United States to Europe. Imagine you live in a smaller city. Your route might look something like this. First leg, 2 hours to New York. Second leg, 7 hours from New York to Europe. Most travelers search for a single ticket and try to book business class the entire way, but that's often the most expensive approach. A smarter option is to split the experience. Fly economy on the short domestic flight, then switch to business class for the long overnight crossing. You still get the comfort where it matters most during the longest part of the trip. Another version of this strategy is called a positioning flight. Smaller airports often have higher international business class prices because fewer long-haul flights depart there. So instead of booking a single expensive itinerary, some travelers first fly economy to a major hub city. For example, a traveler living near a small airport might pay $8,000 for business class to Europe if they book the entire journey from home. But if they take a $150 flight to New York first, they might find business class from New York to Europe for $3,200. Same final destination, thousands saved. There are other variations of this strategy as well. Some travelers fly economy on the outbound flight when excitement is high and sleep isn't as critical, and then book business class on the return overnight flight when comfort matters much more.
Another option is choosing premium economy, which sits between the two cabins. The seats are wider, the legroom is better, and meals are often upgraded. And the price is usually 30 to 50% more than economy rather than the massive jump you see with business class. The key idea here is flexibility. Once you stop thinking of the entire trip as one uniform experience and start choosing the cabin based on which segment benefits most, the price of flying comfortably drops dramatically. And this approach alone has saved travelers thousands without giving up the part of business class that actually matters most: the system behind cheap business class. Let's step back for a moment and put everything together, because once you see the pattern, the pricing system airlines use starts to make much more sense. There are 6 practical rules that experienced travelers rely on when they want business class comfort without paying the full advertised price. Rule number 1. Aim to book your flight about 2 to 4 months before departure. That's often the window when airlines begin adjusting prices if premium seats are still unsold. Rule number 2. Choose your travel days carefully. Flights on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday usually face less corporate demand, which can translate into better prices. Rule number 3. Don't automatically reject flights with one layover. Adding a connection can sometimes cut the ticket price in half, especially on long international routes. Rule number 4. Consider buying economy first and upgrading later. Airlines frequently offer discounted upgrades close to departure when business class seats remain empty. Rule number 5. Keep an eye on airline newsletters, loyalty programs, and deal alerts. Many discounted premium fares are offered directly to subscribers before they appear anywhere else. And rule number 6. Be strategic with cabin choices. Use business class for long-haul segments and economy or premium economy for shorter flights. Together, these strategies reveal something important. Business class pricing is not random. Airlines use a structured system designed to maximize revenue from travelers who don't pay attention to these patterns. But travelers who understand how that system works often pay dramatically less for the exact same seat.